it's great to meet you. Before we get into the new album, I want to know this. 5 years ago, this pandemic was doing all kinds of things to all of us, especially musicians. How did you survive the pandemic of 2020, and how has it affected the way that you create music and live your life as a musician in 2025?
Thank you, Joe. That was a very tough moment, or quite a bit of a um, continuum, I would say, around that. 2020 was very difficult year, and actually, this CD, this project was obviously affected by this great pause that all of us had. I remember 2018, 2019, I was already gearing up to start working on my new songs, my new material, and started to put together some songs and titles together. I was very active at that moment, playing a lot of gigs. And so, full speed going towards 2020, things just come to a stall. And of course, this anxiety and fear sets in. And creatively, it was very hard for me to overcome these difficult times. Obviously, a lot of guilt trip about the fact that I'm not shredding in a shed like a lot of other musicians. Uh, but it's true. It definitely set me off quite a bit. Delayed the production of the CD, I would say, by 3 years. Um, just I was also dealing with some personal issues and personal problems here, family issues, and I needed to be attending to those. But I'm really, really so happy that the 2022 rolled around and 2023 were already years of healing and great energy, um, just self reinvention energy came in, and I started to once again to talk to musicians, talk to different arrangers, and um, uh, basically putting together the program of songs of different styles. In this CD, I really wanted to present as many different Brazilian grooves as possible. I just wanted to diversify it as much as I could possibly, because we know a lot about bossa nova, we know a lot about samba, no pé, for example, samba that is preceding dancing samba that is marched on, during the parades, but we don't know a lot about choro, different styles of Brazil, or baião, or xote, other styles of Brazilian music that are, or partido alto. There's a song on my CD that we can talk a little bit more later about that has this very angular rhythm. So yeah, that was my idea.
So this is your fourth studio album, and speaking of this other album we're talking about, how do you view each successive album? Is it an evolution? Is it a snapshot in time? How do you go about each new project?
I think it's really definitely tied in with the timing that I am living in that moment. I remember that my first CD was very much inspired by my work with a fellow musician, Simon Butler, who was very um, he was very much advanced already in the Brazilian music and just generally in jazz and improvisation. And I was already a very mature musician, and I was really doing a lot of teaching at that time. So, you know, musically definitely I was prepared, but stylistically maybe not so much. Which was called Cantando Samba. Um, and I think just evolutionary, looking at where I came from back from that time, 2025. I think I'm writing my own songs in Portuguese. I am assembling musicians from all over the world. It's like a um, at least musicians came from a couple of different continents to participate on this CD. So I think my reach and my breadth of kind of my musical connections have definitely amplified this particular last project. But I was very instrumental about asking, for example, amazing Hendrik Merkens to participate on my CD. That was my previous record. Um, Hendrik Merkens is
Oh yeah, he's
you know,
amazing. Yeah.
amazing vibraphonist, and especially I really loved his work on harmonica. Was one of my favorite instruments, and I remember that I wanted to bring his mastery to that project, like water, like air, which was my project uh, from 2020. I'm sorry, 2012 that was recorded, and of course, the genius of Ginga was also captured on that CD with two of songs that he composed and really was very very gentle and kind to play for me on that previous record. So I think in that sense I have definitely grown tremendously in a way that my choices of songs and choices of my collaborators have um, uh, came about.
So take me back to the beginnings. How did this fascination with music and more specifically jazz evolve into your career now?
Thank you so much for this question. Definitely, music was part of my life for a very, very long time. And I would say ever since I was 5 or 6, I started already definitely giving some signals to my mom and my especially my grandfather, who was an amazing musician and saxophone player and a bit of a rebel. So he is one of my strongest influences. So at that age I started to play piano, but then later wanted to, I guess I was very little at that time, but my mom and my family wanted me to become a musician, bring me closer to the music. So they I was auditioning at the very, very special school for very musical kids in Moscow, Russia. I was 7 years old, and they did not have any availability for piano or violin as an instrument of choice, and the only instrument that they had was cello. So I assumed cello as my main instrument, and my secondary instrument was piano, which was mandatory in Russia for all the young students. And of course, with that, also the studies of solfege and harmony, rhythmics came along. So very, very in-depth studying, even at this very early and tender age. And so my grandfather, saxophone player and clarinet player, as I mentioned just a little earlier, he was a jazz musician. And at that time in Russia, jazz was still looked down upon as a bourgeois art or American music, not very welcome in that part of the world. But my grandfather was very, very much devoted jazz musician. He even went to work at another city. He had to actually. He was forced. It was a little bit before the time I was born. It was actually when my mom was very young, in the 50s and 60s. He was forced to flee Moscow and go seek employment somewhere else. And so he went some 400 kilometers west of Moscow and assumed some music job, orchestra chair at this small jazz orchestra. And so that's kind of where I was growing up. I was really, really into classical music, obviously,
Yeah.
by day because I was at school. And by night, I would come home and my grandfather would play jazz records, and I would be listening, and we would be talking about it. He would be very, very much into big band sound, and later, of course, the sounds of Brazilian music came in, and I started listening to João Gilberto and Astrud and Stan Getz. That's probably kind of a typical thing that a lot of us discover Brazilian music through those musicians first, as they really made their legacy in United States for the most part. And so then I was continuing to study my classical cello and piano, but at the same time, really becoming more and more entranced in jazz. And then after immigrating to the United States towards the 2000, I started really pursuing that type of a musical career, teaching, educational career when I came to the United States. And so this is where I found myself joining a vocal ensemble, um, like a close harmony group where we were singing in four, five, six voice harmony. And that again was a jazz project. We traveled. We recorded a CD at that time, and that was one of my very very early first musical projects. And after that, I started already looking for opportunities to study more. Joined classes at jazz school in Berkeley here in near California. In California, near San Francisco, we have a wonderful school that was accredited until a very recent time. But again, COVID had placed so much strain on this kind of economy, and the school used to be a community school and then became accredited and now went back again to a community status. But it's still around. It's a beautiful, incredible mecca for many of us here, local San Francisco musicians, to really be getting closer to musicians like Marcos Silva, amazing piano player, and he was my one of my first teachers in Brazilian music, definitely, as he played so many dates, and he traveled and toured with Ayrton and Flora Purim and many, many other Brazilian greats. So that's how I discovered Brazilian music and came to it and matured sort of with it.
So was it your dream to always come to America?
I was pretty young. I would say that my Russian life felt less than promising and definitely very much not fulfilling, even though the music was there. And back in those days, we in Moscow enjoyed so much cultural life, theaters, concerts. Most of them were, if not all of them, were classical concerts, conservatory. Uh, there was several venues that presented a lot of classical music, and so classical music and theater were probably the most foundational for me when I was growing up. But then some of my friends were leaving from America. Indeed, they were immigrating. It was um, 90s when outflux of many of my friends have began, and then I felt like I needed to be uh, trying to make my way out there to have some sort of future, some sort of creative life and fulfillment.
So, what was the first live jazz show you saw when you came to America that blew you away?
I remember being in New York. Um, at that time, I was, let's see, still very much new uh, to the scene, and definitely in New York, I felt like a great big city with so many jazz opportunities. But I remember that I saw, um, I don't remember who that was, but I think it was Ahmad Jamal, amazing
Yeah.
piano player, and it was absolutely breathtaking. Something I have never experienced, of course. I really never been to a jazz club before I moved out here. And spending a few months early on when I just arrived in New York were so, so fulfilling. My friends were there, and they were already in United States, uh, living for a while. I'd say 2 years, maybe 2, 3 years for all of those newcomers. Already felt like, I'm sure, a lifetime, and so they knew everything. And all of us love jazz. We all continue to be classical musicians. Well, I should say that they are continue to be classical musicians. I'm talking about my friends in New York, but I have moved out west here after a little bit of time in New York and really started my life here in California in San Francisco. Um, Wanted to. I just really fell in love with the West Coast.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What do you like the best about being a professional musician? What gets you up every day? What impels you to create?
Wow. Well, thank you so much. Those are missions I think that I have. They crystallized maybe about 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I realized that I am definitely um, a very passionate teacher and very passionate about music in general, in jazz in particular. I am a voice teacher of many, many years of experience. I started teaching in 2000 here in San Francisco. We have several schools, and I've taught at almost all of them. Um, I think that as a voice teacher, I think everybody needs to be able to sing and create because a voice is such an easy outlet to access for every single one of us. We all should be able to sing. We all should be um, strong enough and confident enough to open our mouth and be heard. Uh, we might take some classes, it might really help. But I am a very strong proponent of that and encourage everybody who comes through my door to sing and to express. And of course, musically, I just don't know, Joe. It's so funny you are asking me this question, but I feel like I'm breathing that air for my entire life, expressing myself and um, almost religiously devoted to music. I feel like this is my religion to the extent that when I feel really depressed or down, I just know that I need to be behind the piano playing music, practicing my new songs, or just revamping my old songs. Something will come out of this immediately. I have an uplift and such a strong sense of being grounded, being really in my place, in a place of my expression, like, the seat of my power, so to speak.
Yeah. Why do you love this art form we call jazz?
Wow, because it's expressive. It's a lot more expressive than classical music. I think in maybe certain aspects, of course, when we are able to interpret the melody and really take the chord changes uh, and change them a little bit to really fit more of a contemporary harmony that we hear. I love the fact that jazz is so open and so inclusive about many styles of music. Um, you know, there are just so many representations of jazz, and the Bad Plus, for example, takes the Blondie songs and converts them into uh, listenable jazz, very edgy but listenable. The music of Johann Sebastian Bach also made its way into jazz. It seems like everything is included, and we continue to grow our jazz repertoire just by adding more and opening our hearts and our minds to new forms of jazz. And Brazilian music, Brazilian jazz was at one point of the jazz development as a big sort of umbrella of styles. That type of music was in the shoes of a newcomer to enter the jazz in the 50s and 60s and be embraced by listeners with open arms for the gorgeousness of melodies, richness of harmonies, uh, depth and very humaneness of the lyrics. Um, this is what I love the jazz as a music form, as an expression uh, for. It's definitely um, what my grandfather gave me as a token of survival and love and just continuous fascination and engagement.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, fans, everyone that knows you that's on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Those are good questions. You
Yeah.
didn't send me those questions earlier on, but I love it. I love the challenge.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think I am definitely a reflection of my experiences, my uh, many uh, kind of I guess, my many interests in the musical realm. Uh, I think I am a chanteuse. I'm a singer with definitely big uh, proponents for lyricism and whimsy of a bossa nova song. But I do have a bit of a zest on stage as well when I feel like some rhythms and some musical forms from Brazil require me to be a little bit more edgy. And in that moment, I think there's a bit of more of a kind of a commanding songstress in me. Uh, Definitely, Brazilian music opened me up in that sense as a very gentle, sometimes breathy, but very very um, I would say positive presence, not depressive or not dark in a expressive sense. I think especially with this CD, I really wanted to uplift people's spirits and bring them a message of hope, give them a very joyful experience with this music. There's a lot of songs in this CD that are having just very upbeat, crazy rhythms. I would say even very fast lyrics and vocalises. Mm. So yeah, trying to stay on the positive side and being really a kind of a beacon of hope for many folks, uplift their hearts and be um, be a good message carrier, so to speak.
So if anyone wants to pick up the album, they want to catch you live, any of your previous releases, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, of course, a lot of it is available on Spotify. Both of those records. Well, all of them. Not all of them are available on Spotify, but my record that was issued in 2007 is available on Spotify. Caminos Cruzados, and my latest record is also available on Spotify. Uh, I mean, iTunes has all of my music, I think. So the records that I would suggest for the listeners to check out are Caminos Cruzados, Crossroads by Masha Campagne, then Like Water, Like Air, also by Masha Campagne. This is where Hendrik Merkens and Ginga are participating. And the latest record that is called Alegre Menina is also available digitally everywhere on all the streaming platforms, including iTunes and Spotify.
Excellent. Um, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for opening up. Thank you for talking about the album, your world of music, and best of luck with the release. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate your beautiful, very thoughtful questions.
Kansas City musicians, filmmakers, and creatives, this is your invitation. Don't miss Sound to Screen, a one-day music and film workshop on July 19th, 2025 at UMKC's Katz Hall from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Learn how to take your song from concept to screen, bring your instruments, connect with local artists, and enjoy a special masterclass with members of Kansas City's own The Freedom Affair. Spots are limited. RSVP now at soundtoscreen.kccreativecity.com or just search for Sound to Screen on Facebook events.